Have you ever watched someone who deeply hurt you walk away, seemingly untouched, and thought to yourself, is that it? Do they just get to win? They move on, smiling for new photos, while you're left to piece yourself back together. It's a feeling of injustice that can echo for a long time. But what if I told you that life doesn't settle its most profound debts in public? It doesn't send a notification. Instead, it collects in the dead of night, in the quiet, lonely moments when no one else is watching. The Stoics knew this. They didn't chase revenge. They observed, because while you are healing in peace, karma is already at work, and it never, ever misses. In this video, we're not talking about revenge. We're talking about observation. We will uncover the 5 silent, undeniable signs that someone is already facing the consequences of how they treated you. Not in a courtroom, not in a public drama, but in the quiet prison of their own mind. This is about seeing the truth that karma speaks in whispers, not screams, and by the end, you will find a peace that is louder than their loudest lie. Sign number 1, the performance of false happiness. The very first sign that karma is quietly at work is when they suddenly start acting like they've never been better. The person who betrayed your trust, who ghosted you, who made it seem like you were the problem, is now putting on a dazzling Broadway performance of their own happiness. Suddenly, their social media feed explodes with light. There are new photos every day, featuring blindingly white teeth, exotic locations you two never visited, and the cast of brand new friends who weren't around when they had you. And let's be honest, if you're not careful, you might actually fall for it. You might scroll through this carefully curated highlight reel and feel the familiar pang in your chest, thinking, wow, maybe they really are happier without me. But look closer, look past the filters and the forced smiles. Real, genuine happiness doesn't need an audience. It doesn't need to be proven every single day. Fake happiness, however, screams for validation. You've seen the pattern before, haven't you? A few days of silence after the fallout, and then suddenly, boom, an aggressive campaign of photos, stories, and inspirational quotes about healing and good vibes. One moment they were destroying something real, and the next, they're hashtagging #blessed like their guild never touched them. But observe with a Stoic's eye. The smile is just a little too wide. The eyes seem distant, not truly present in the moment. The energy feels frantic, almost desperate. Why? Because true happiness is quiet and serene. Insecurity, on the other hand, is always loud. The ancient Stoics understood this perfectly. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that the best revenge is to be unlike the person who performed the injury. That's why you don't argue, you don't clap back, and you certainly don't stalk their stories for closure. You simply observe, because the louder someone tries to prove they've moved on, the more likely it is that they are chained to the past. Karma doesn't need to announce itself with a lightning strike. It shows up quietly, every single night when they go to bed and the performance is over, reminding them that no number of likes can drown out the sound of a conscience that knows, I messed up something real. Sign number 2, the quiet erosion of their world. Karma doesn't always arrive like a hurricane, destroying everything in its path. Sometimes, it works more like a quiet, relentless tide, slowly pulling things back out to sea. The second sign that someone is silently receiving their karma is when life begins to subtly subtract the very things they once held so carelessly. People expect karma to show up in big, dramatic ways: a sudden betrayal, a financial disaster, a heartbreaking loss. But karma is often far more precise, far more poetic than that. It doesn't throw tantrums, it simply begins to take away. At first, it's so quiet they barely even notice. A close friend stops responding to their texts. A colleague at work no longer trusts them with important tasks. An opportunity they were counting on mysteriously slips through their fingers. They'll shrug it off, of course. They'll call it bad luck or a coincidence. But then the pattern continues, and continues, and continues. Eventually, they will look around and find themselves standing in the ruins of a life that feels strangely empty. Without understanding why, and isn't that the perfect justice? Think about what they used to mock or minimize in you. Maybe they said you were too emotional, or that you cared too much. In reality, you were the only one reacting with a human heart. You were the one who stayed up late, texting them through their personal crises. You were the one who forgave them when they forgot your worth. You were the one who believed in them when they couldn't even believe in themselves. And how did they repay that gift? They rolled their eyes. They called you needy or too soft for this world. They treated your presence as a given, not a precious gift. So, you stopped offering it, and at first, they felt free, untouched. But then the silence started to echo. The support system they never had to ask for was gone. The comfort of being deeply understood by someone who actually cared became an irreplaceable memory. The people they are left with now are shallow reflections of themselves, transactional and dismissive. Every room feels a little colder. Every new relationship feels a little thinner. Every victory feels a little emptier. Because deep down, they know they had something real and sacred, and they let it slip through their fingers for something cheap. Sign number 3, the echo of your name in everything they say. When someone can't stop talking in circles, but you remain at the center of every sentence, you can be sure that karma is already whispering in their mind. The third sign is when you continue to live in their thoughts. Even as they pretend you don't exist, they will never say your name directly, not in public, but if you listen closely, you can hear it everywhere. They post vague quotes on social media, cryptic captions about betrayal, loyalty, or healing from the past. They'll drop hints in conversations with friends, saying things like, "Some people just don't appreciate what they have until it's gone," or "I'm cutting off anyone who doesn't deserve my energy." At first glance, it looks like general, philosophical chatter, but you know better. You know their language, their patterns, their guilt. You've been there, scrolling through your feed, and suddenly a post hits you. It feels like a bullet wrapped in poetry. They didn't tag you, they didn't mention you, but every single word screams your presence. It's a transparent attempt to get your attention without looking like they want your attention. But that isn't power, that isn't healing, that is a conscience trying to scream through the cracks of a collapsed ego. And maybe no one else around them even notices, but you do, because you once cared for them enough to read their silences. And now, those same silences are shouting back at them. Karma doesn't always punish with external events. Sometimes, its most severe punishment is obsession. It's the thoughts they can't control, the regrets they can't swallow, the memories they thought would fade but now can't escape. A true Stoic does not seek revenge by posting a subtle quote of their own. To reply is to validate their attempt to get a reaction. To stay silent is to reclaim your power completely. Let them carry your name around in their mind. Let them talk in circles. The more they do, the more they reveal the undeniable truth: you left their life. But they never, ever left yours. The mind is the loudest prison of all. Sign number 4, the poison of self-suspicion. When you betray someone good, you don't just lose them, you lose the ability to trust anyone who reminds you of them, and eventually, you lose the ability to trust yourself. The fourth sign karma is at work is when they stop believing in the good in other people, because they are haunted by the bad in themselves. On the surface, it might look like strength or newfound wisdom. They'll say they are protecting their energy. They'll keep their circles small. They'll say things like, "I just don't trust people anymore. Everyone is fake." But if you look underneath that tough, cynical exterior, You won't find strength. You won't find healthy boundaries. You will find fear, the kind of deep-seated fear that grows in the shadow of unresolved guilt. Think about it. They used to be more open, more trusting, but after what they did to you, something inside them shifted. Now, they question everyone's intentions. They assume betrayal is just around the corner. They scan every word and action, looking for signs that someone might do to them what they once did to you. Why? Because deep down, they know what humans are capable of. When you have inflicted a deep wound on someone who didn't deserve it, you start to believe that everyone else holds that same potential for destruction. This is karma's most intimate and cruel punishment, self-suspicion. It isolates them not by force, but by a slow, internal erosion of their own peace. The voice in their head that once said, "I'm in control," is now whispering, "Maybe I'm the problem," and once you begin to truly doubt the goodness of your own heart, peace becomes impossible, no matter how successful or quiet your life appears to be. So if you see them becoming unable to trust, don't feel bad for them. It is not your job to return and prove that not everyone is the same. Your role was never to be the redeemer for someone who chose destruction. Karma is simply giving them exactly what they earned, the quiet, lonely collapse of self-trust. These 4 signs are subtle, internal, and powerful, but what happens when life decides to stop whispering and instead decides to hold up a mirror? This brings us to the 5th, and perhaps most undeniable sign of all. This is the moment karma stops subtracting from their life and starts reflecting it right back at them. These 4 signs are subtle, internal, and powerful, but what happens when life decides to stop whispering and instead decides to hold up a mirror? This brings us to the 5th, and perhaps most undeniable sign of all. This is the moment karma stops subtracting from their life and starts reflecting it right back at them. This is karma's masterpiece. Sign number 5. Life sends them a mirror. The 5th and most undeniable sign that someone is silently receiving their karma is when life sends them someone just like them. Not just a bad match, not just the wrong person, but a perfect, walking, talking mirror, a reflection of every toxic behavior they once inflicted on someone who loved them. And that reflection, it doesn't show up looking like a monster. It shows up looking sweet, charming, and impossibly attractive, just as they once did when they were winning your trust. At first, it feels like destiny. They think they've finally met their match. The chemistry is electric. The connection feels deep, instant, and magnetic. But what they don't yet realize is that they aren't falling in love with someone new. They are falling headfirst into a karmic loop, one specifically designed to show them not who they love, but who they have been. And this time, they are not the one holding the power. Remember how they once made you feel uncertain, anxious, like you were never quite enough? Now, they find themselves frantically chasing texts that never come. They wait for calls that get ignored. They post things just to be seen and are met with agonizing silence. They once played hot and cold with your heart. Now, they're dating someone who burns them with silence, then floods them with intoxicating affection, only to pull away again and call them too emotional for reacting. They used to turn your vulnerability into a punchline. Now, they find themselves opening up, only to be mocked or dismissed in return. They once had your unwavering loyalty and walked away from it as if it were nothing. Now, they beg for a shred of commitment from someone who always keeps one foot out the door. At first, they will rationalize it. They'll tell themselves, this person just has their own issues. They're complicated, they're misunderstood, but slowly, deep down, a horrifying thought begins to rise from the depths of their subconscious. This feeling, this powerlessness, this is what I did to someone else. They won't say it out loud. They may never admit it to a single soul, but the thought will haunt them. It will show up in the quiet pause before they fall asleep. in the heavy silence after yet another failed attempt to truly connect. Because the pain they are feeling now, they will start to realize, isn't random. It's not just bad luck. It is pattern recognition, and it is karmic justice at its most poetic and terrifying. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, doesn't seek revenge, it seeks to restore balance. It does this not by hurting him back, but by giving him a direct, lived experience of the pain they once so casually caused. No lesson is ever remembered more deeply than the one that is felt. They used to laugh at how much you cared. Now they find themselves crying over someone who couldn't care less. And in that moment of heartache, as they stare at their own reflection in the mirror of their new relationship, it will finally hit them. They are not just being hurt, they are being shown. And the mirror does not lie. Conclusion: the Stoics' victory is silence. So, while they are trapped in this karmic loop, fighting a reflection of themselves, what is your role in all of this? The answer is both simple and profoundly difficult: nothing. Karma does not need your help. It doesn't need you to clap back on social media. It doesn't need you to prove your side of the story or beg the world to finally see your worth. It only needs one thing from you: your dignified silence, your unwavering composure, your absolute refusal to sink to their level. Because while they are still tangled in a web of lies, pride, and manipulation, you have already stepped into something far more powerful: clarity. You see, karma isn't just about what happens to them. It's also about what happens to you when you finally, truly let go. You stop needing an apology or a conversation for closure, because your own inner peace becomes your closure. You stop needing justice from them, because you realize that time itself becomes your greatest witness. Your job isn't to punish, your job is to rise, to become so grounded in your own worth, so inwardly strong, that no one can ever shake your peace again, not even the ghost of the person who hurt you. That is the Stoic way. We don't curse our enemies. We don't chase validation from those who are incapable of giving it. We simply walk forward, quietly, powerfully, and with the kind of disciplined self-respect that the universe notices. So if you are watching this right now, and someone has hurt you, someone who never apologized, someone who acted like you didn't matter, let them go. Let karma do what karma does. Because while they may look free, they are quietly haunted by the one thing they can never escape: the truth of who they are. And trust this, people who lie to others can sometimes sleep at night. But people who lie to themselves never find true rest. If this message of quiet strength and inner peace spoke to you, and you are ready to continue walking this path, then do yourself a favor and subscribe to our community. We don't just talk about philosophy here, we build the discipline, clarity, and unshakable peace that makes you the master of your own world. Thank you for watching. Keep becoming someone they will never have access to again. That's not revenge, that is your ascension.